Good evening, everyone. This talk is The Mystery of Karma. That's how I'm told you pronounce it, Karma, rather than Karma. I think you can pronounce it both ways, but I tend to use Karma, Karma. So H.P. Blavatsky writes in The Key to Theosophy, as a general rule, and within certain limits, which define the age to which we belong, the law of karma cannot be hastened or retarded in its fulfillment. But of this I am certain. The point of possibility in either of these directions has never yet been touched. Very interesting words. So we tend to adopt a very narrow view of karma based upon our indoctrination into organized religions and an idea that is difficult to get rid of regarding a vengeful God. So we regard karma as a kind of punishment for any wrong that we do, or a reward for any good. In nature, there's no such thing as punishment or reward, for that matter. These are man-made concepts, and only man punishes his fellow human beings due to a desire to exercise his lower or bestial nature and to seek selfish satisfaction in some sort of revenge, another merely man-made state of mind. Karma is a restoration of broken harmony. And some people may argue against it thus. If the general idea is that if one kills a person in this life, then in another life, that person themselves will be killed were true, how is this restoring harmony? Surely the person who kills the original murderer will also have to suffer, and this process will never end and very likely escalate. I'm aware that this is a very basic example, and karma is much more complex, but it is serving merely as an extreme case. H.P. Blavatsky also gives the example of a stone being thrown into a still lake. This causes ripples, and harmony can only be restored by those ripples reconverging on the point of impact. So the skeptic may say, using the example of the murderer another way, harmony will not be restored by throwing another stone in after it. And so in society, there's a desire in us for an eye for an eye of the Old Testament, of the Bible, a desire for punishment and for revenge. Saying this, we have the law that action and reaction are equal and opposite, which states that one object exerts a force on another object. Then the second object exerts an equal and opposite reaction force on the first, which may explain the workings of karma in a rather cold, scientific way. We set certain causes in motion that must have their equal effect, taking into account the effects also on all planes of being, not just the physical. But despite that, the argument stated above still has to be answered. How can this process bring about harmony, if it seems to be an elaborate tit for tat? It is in fact just an impersonal law of nature, and therefore no respecter of persons. We can say that when the law of action and reaction is completed, that the balance has been restored, but other causes are then set in motion. So where does it all end? It seems that we can take karma in hand and consciously try to bring about a harmonious end to any situation, personal or even global. As karma is not only an individual law, but a global one, and perhaps a universal one too. And this is where compassion comes in. H.P. Blavatsky describes it in The Voice of the Silence as the law of laws, eternal harmony, Elias self, a shoreless universal essence, the light of everlasting right and fitness of all things, the law of love, eternal. So this law is stronger and more potent than any other law, including that of karma. That is what she says in the quote at the beginning of this article, that the possibility of the hastening or retarding of karma has never yet been touched. It is an interesting statement. In a footnote to the above quote, she adds, "This compassion must not be regarded in the same light as God, the divine love of the theists. Compassion stands here as an abstract, impersonal law, whose nature being absolute harmony is thrown into confusion by discord, suffering, and sin. The import of this is that karma can be overcome by the power of compassion, and that karmic effects, by a kind of alchemy, can be transformed into a panacea that aids in bringing love and peace back to a troubled world. One can consciously make a vow to bring harmony back into one's own life and to the world around us all. In the Key to Theosophy, H.P. Blavatsky, following the quote at the end of this article, quotes a letter from an anonymous woman who mentions a pleasant day she had on Hampstead Heath in London. She contrasted this with the squalor and poverty in Whitechapel at that time, where she went to deliver flowers and food. She concludes, "It breaks my heart, this endless, hopeless misery, and the brutish degradation that is at once its outgrowth and its root. She's like the banyan tree. Every branch roots itself and sends out new shoots. What a difference between these feelings and the peaceful scene at Hampstead. And yet we, who are the brothers and sisters of these poor creatures, have only a right to use Hampstead Heaths to gain strength to save Whitechapels." In other words, any good experiences we have as a result of being in a better position in life than some should be shared amongst those less fortunate. As in the final analysis, we are all one, and any benefits we have that are kept solely for ourselves are depriving others. And this is not easy to do, as we are all bitten by the snake of selfishness and find that the lower self is constantly reasserting itself at every step of our lives. Compassion is merely the restoration of harmony, consciously on whatever level of being. At the basic level, it is helping in a practical way, giving food and shelter to the poor and to the needy. On other levels, it may be supplying the correct form of education and spiritual and moral guidance. All are important, and there is fortunately a division of labour so that all aspects are covered and help is given on all levels mentioned. By their very constitution, individuals and groups are fitted to give help in their own way, and all are essential to the overall process. Feeding the mind and soul are as important, and probably a lot more so, than feeding the body. But different environments necessitate a different emphasis. H.P. Blavatsky's statement that the possibilities regarding the hastening or retarding of karma not yet being touched brings up many fascinating thoughts. We tend to generalize on most things and therefore become stranded on some sandbank of thought. Our ideas are mainly very sketchy, even regarding reincarnation and karma. H.P. Blavatsky is here inviting us to think outside the box, not to be caught up in cut and dried interpretations and merely regurgitate things we have read in books. In fact, if we read H.P. Blavatsky's writings closely, we can see that she is constantly saying that, as she was aware of how easy it is to become a victim to the dead letter. She was constantly emphasizing this, how easy it is to become victim to the dead letter. This has happened to most of the world's great religions, particularly Christianity and Islam. In these two faiths, the Gnostics and the Sufis were able to see beyond the outer form to the reality behind it and we, as theosophical and spiritual students, are encouraged to do the same. So it seems regarding karma that someone who has lived a dissolute life or has perpetrated some terrible crime, if they repent, can make an inner vow to put things right in a future life, maybe to be reborn alongside their victims and work to atone for their wrongs, to restore the harmony that they broke in the last life. Perhaps they could even do that within the same lifetime. If someone has a positive attitude to atone for their wrongdoings, they will place themselves in a situation to do something positive about it. In the same way that an ex-alcoholic is the best person to help other alcoholics, so someone who has had a negative experience and reformed can best understand others going through the same. It could be that others go through these experiences voluntarily to enable them to understand. So we should never judge others. There's no such thing as punishment in nature, as said earlier. We have to divest ourselves of the idea that there is a being or beings that mete out karma, or that it is in any way fatalistic. We are in charge of our own progress along the path and can alter situations and circumstances to suit our needs. We have effects to our actions. But how we react to these effects and how we use them is up to us as individuals and as communities, etc., etc. The secret is to adopt a positive and optimistic attitude, to meet whatever comes our way intelligently and use it to fuel our deepening understanding of spirituality. It is all a matter of developing a mind that regards all in our lives as helpful to the unfolding of our true spiritual nature. There may be times when life seems very bleak, but this does not mean that because physically or mentally we are having difficulties, that we are not gathering vital information on higher planes of being. Inaction on the physical plane does not mean inaction on other levels. We are multidimensional beings, and the physical is the lowest level of our functioning selves. When we act from a truly spiritual level of being, we are stronger and more potent than any mechanical laws of nature, and can use all that relates to the manifested universe as tools to awaken our true nature and become enlightened beings. True spiritual love has its roots in eternity, as H.P. Blavatsky tells us. If we can dissolve man-made barriers and see behind the illusion of separateness, then we will understand what true compassion is. It is not just a sentimental feeling, just feeling sorry for someone, for those less fortunate, but an active power that sometimes may work in ways that may seem unfair or even cruel to our limited perceptions. We have to become aware of ourselves as spiritual beings and awaken to the very important fact that we can become masters of our environment and our destiny on all levels, including karmic effects that must follow, but can be used as tools to speed on our evolution and that of the world in general. Until then, we may seem the plaything of certain laws, but we can rise superior to these, and will do in time. So thank you very much for listening. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings.